National Curriculum Framework. Pakistan Ministry of Federal Education and Professional Training. Table of Contents Chapter 1. Introduction 1.1 Importance and Goals of Education 1.2 Curriculum. Definitions 1.3 Quality in Education 1.4 Standards in Education 3. 1.5 History of Curriculum Development in Pakistan 3. Chapter 1. Introduction 1.1 Importance and Goals of Education. Education is a critical investment for human capital formation and an essential tool for ensuring sustainable socio-economic development. It plays an important role in preservation, cultivation, and transmission of cultural heritage from one generation to the next. Education is the knowledge of putting one's potentials to the maximum use, enabling a person to think and take informed choices and decisions. 1.1 Goals of Education. Education is the process of bringing desirable changes in the attitudes and behaviors of human beings. It facilitates learning or acquisition of knowledge, values, beliefs, habits, skills, and dispositions. These processes of bringing desirable changes and acquisition of knowledge are the critical goals of education and are generally achieved through curriculum, including all other areas of its implementation in the classroom. Constitution of Pakistan affirms an egalitarian view of education based on values and speaks of instilling moral values and of providing education to all citizens irrespective of gender, caste, creed, or race. It also speaks of removing illiteracy and providing free and compulsory education for children of 5 to 16 years. Of ensuring full participation of women in all the spheres of national life. Pakistan had made a commitment to achieve 6 Dhaka EFA goals within the specified target dates. Pakistan is also a signatory to Sustainable Development Goals 2015 to 2030, whereby each member state has to ensure inclusive and quality education for all and promote lifelong learning. 1. However, there is a strong need to address the issues like the divide between the prevalent school structures and differences in levels of infrastructure and facilities, medium of instruction, emoluments and qualifications of teachers, curriculum being offered in public and private sector schools and in Dini Madaris, examination systems, and what values to be taught through the educational system and how to accommodate non-Muslim minorities. 1.2 Curriculum definitions. The definition of curriculum and its interpretation varies from a narrow concept of a set of subjects or programs of studies to a broader concept of a series of experiences undergone by learners in the school under supervision of a teacher school. 2. The curriculum has been defined as the planned and guided learning experiences and intended outcomes, formulated through systematic reconstruction of knowledge and experience under auspices of school, for the learner's continuous and willful growth in personal social competence. 3. It implies that curriculum provides a framework for the educational institutions determining the subjects, learning objectives, and learning outcomes. The key value of a curriculum is to ensure cohesion and uniformity in the education system of diverse cultures and societies to achieve the cherished goal of national unity. In other words, curriculum is simply a vehicle to interpret and transmit the national goals and societal aspirations to the younger generations. Curriculum is the guide that delineates the learning path of a student and determines the process of learning. 4. 1.3 Quality in education. The term quality in education has been used in all policy documents. However, its definition remains elusive because of the intricate nature of teaching learning process and involvement of a large number of stakeholders. Quality of education has been defined as a set of elements containing input, process and output of education system. 5. The term education quality has also been defined in two ways in terms of either inputs or outputs. 6. The quality of education is linked to school inputs, such as teachers' qualifications, class size, pedagogy, teaching and learning materials, curriculum, facilities and resources, learning, physical, fiscal and others, necessary for the maintenance of school. Educational quality is, therefore, relative to. Curriculum is the planned and guided learning experiences and intended outcomes, formulated through systematic reconstruction of knowledge and experience under auspices of school, for the learner's continuous and willful growth in personal social competence. The inputs. If inputs are of good quality, the output is also of high quality. 7. Educational outcomes and the curriculum as an input are interconnected. The nature and design of the curriculum guides the educational process to achieve the desired outcomes or standards. It is at the heart of education, and it encompasses the desirable characteristics of learners, processes, facilities, learning materials, content, governance and management, and learning outcomes. A quality education is one that satisfies basic learning needs and enriches the lives of learners and their overall experience of living. 8. The National Educational Policy 2009 identified 6 pillars of quality which include curriculum, textbooks, assessment, teachers, learning environment, and relevance of education to practical life. 9. In these pillars, curriculum is the major pillar around which the whole activities relating to learning take place. As such, it is imperative that the design of the curriculum is such that it takes care of all requirements leading to an effective learning. 1.4 Standards in education. Standards in education are used to measure the quality of education and student achievements. Standards are the specifications or yardsticks for the inputs, processes and outcomes of an education system. 10. The standards define what students should know and be able to do at a specific level of education. Standards also define the knowledge and skills that students should possess at critical points in their educational career. Standards are used as a reference point for assessing quality of input, process and output of an education system. Standards also serve as a basis of educational reform across the country and a way to measure student success in terms of outcomes. Standards are also needed by those working for evaluation, assessment, feedback and research. Standards are, therefore, required as a national initiative to define the knowledge, skills, and dispositions that students should have throughout their education at primary, secondary, and higher secondary levels to provide a clear and consistent framework to Prepare young children for their future educational and professional careers in the world of work. 1.5 History of curriculum development in Pakistan. Pakistan came into being in 1947. Educational base at that time was too weak to build a sound and varied structure of education system in the country. There was a need not only to expand the education system but also to reorient the whole education system according to the country's social, cultural, and economic needs. The first Pakistan Educational Conference was convened in 1947, which gave direction to the education system. The conference recommended revision of curriculum in line with the requirements and ideals of the country, as well as to encourage the integration of various components of education. 11. The Commission on National Education, 1959, analyzed the situation regarding curriculum development and recommended revision of curricula in the light of social and economic needs of the country as well as individual interests. 12. The Commission suggested the designing of curricula at primary level to focus on developing basic skills in reading, writing, and arithmetic, creating high sense of patriotism as well as a liking for working with one's own hand, and core compulsory subjects and additional subjects for specific vocations and careers at secondary level. The Commission also proposed the establishment of textbook boards in the country to regulate textbook development. In pursuance of the recommendations of the Commission, a curriculum committee for primary and secondary education was appointed. The committee proposed the objectives of primary education, declaring middle stage as part of secondary education and diversification of curricula at secondary level. 13. Subsequent to that, various educational policies and programs were launched in the country to improve the education system as a whole. A glimpse of these efforts is given hereunder. The Education Policy, 1972-80, recommended designing of curricula relevant to nation's changing social and economic needs compatible with ideology of the country. In order to achieve national cohesion and harmony, the policy recommended implementation of national curriculum in all federating units. 14. The National Education Policy and Implementation Program 1979 recommended revision, modernization, and Islamization of curricula to bring it in conformity with Islamic ideals. 15. National Education Policy 1992-2002 focused on restructuring the existing educational system on modern lines in accordance with principles of Islam to create enlightened Muslim society and to improve the quality of education by revising curricula. 16. National Education Policy 1998-2010 stressed on diversifying education system, making curriculum development a continuous process, popularizing information technology and making the Quran teaching and Islamic principles as an integral part of curricula. 17. National Education Policy 2009 proposed revitalizing the existing education system to cater to social, political, and spiritual needs of individuals and society. The policy laid emphasis on the preservation of the ideals, which led to the creation of Pakistan, and strengthened the concept of basic ideology within Islamic ethos. The policy also recommended development of a common curricular framework to be applied to educational institutions, both in public and private sectors. The policy further recommended to the government to take steps to bring the public and private sectors in harmony through common standards, quality, and regulatory regimes. Point 18. Before 1967 there was no permanent institution responsible for curriculum development in Pakistan, and curriculum development was not visualized as distinct, separate, and specialized function. The entire curricular activity was carried out through committees which were created for a specific purpose at a specific time and were dissolved as soon as the task was over. The curriculum development was a part of many other functions of various organizations of a provincial education department, and there was no specific organization for development of curriculum till establishment of curriculum bureaus. National Bureau of Curriculum and Textbook was set up in pursuance of decision taken in the Governors' Conference held in February 1967. 19. The main functions of the Bureau included the need for integration, coordination of the work of the provinces and setting standards of education. 20. Earlier in 1962, a regular system of production and distribution of textbooks was introduced in the country with the establishment of West Pakistan Textbooks Board in Lahore and East Pakistan Textbooks Board in Dhaka. Prior to this, there was no regular system of printing, publishing, and distribution of textbooks. Subsequently, textbook boards in each province were established for preparing, publishing, stocking, distributing, and marketing school textbooks. 21. The Constitution of Pakistan 1973 had included education in concurrent legislative list, which indicates that it is a joint function of federal and provincial governments. The concurrent legislative list contains subjects like policy, planning, curriculum, syllabus, standards of education, and Islamic education. 22. Ministry of Education at the federal level was empowered through Federal Supervision of Curricula, Textbooks, and Maintenance of Standards of Education Act, 1976 to supervise curricula, textbooks, and other learning materials as well as to maintain standards of education. The National Bureau of Curriculum and Textbooks, established in 1967, got the legal mandate under Federal Supervision Act of 1976 and functioned under the curriculum wing of the Ministry of Education to supervise curriculum and textbooks development and approval and to maintain curriculum standards from primary to the higher secondary levels. The National Bureau of Curriculum and Textbooks was supported by the Provincial Bureaus of Curriculum, Textbook Boards, and other related institutions in the development and revision of curriculum, development and appraisal of textbooks, teachers' delivery, development of standards, assessment of learning achievements, and all activities falling within the purview of the Federation under the Concurrent Legislative List. The Concurrent Legislative List was abolished through 18th Amendment in the Constitution. Education is now the sole responsibility of the provinces, including curriculum, textbooks, and all other related matters concerning learning in the schools from primary up to higher secondary level. 23. However, in a conference with the Prime Minister, the provinces agreed to implement the National Education Policy 2009, notwithstanding the abolition of the Concurrent Legislative List. 24.